Hey there, thanks for joining me for this full UkeGuide review of this instrument. This is the Hal Leonard Learn to Play ukulele. I obtained mine from a Target store. It's a department store here in the United States. Comes in a box like this, and it includes a method book that is priced at a value of $4.99. Although you do have links to the audio that goes along with it, and you also get your videos that you can see. So you get video lessons, and then they also recommend sheet music now. So you can download that as well, and that's what all comes with it. There's no tuner, there's no nothing else, and this is what you get. Now, if you are a legitimate ukulele player, you're probably going, no one in their right mind is going to buy that and expect it to be a real instrument. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm also telling you as a music educator that parents do. Oh, you're learning ukulele at school in your fifth grade or fourth grade class. Well, let's buy you an ukulele. Look, here's one at Target or Walmart. It's right on the shelf. It's $40. Well, let's just buy it. There you go. Now you have an ukulele. Or do you? So that's what we're going to look at today. These are kind of fun to do because really our hopes are so low, but in reality, maybe it's a feasible instrument. Well, we're going to find out. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to look at some subjective categories that I look at with all the instruments, and I'll go over the specifications. Then I will summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating out of 5 possible ukuleles. If you want to play the game at home, you can try to guess in advance what I'm going to rate this instrument as. We'll find out. Also, if you want to support the work on this channel, there are 3 things you can do. First of all, you can like the video. Second, you can subscribe to the channel. And third, you can always buy me a cup of coffee to say thank you for making this content at www.buymeacoffee.com/UkeStuff. I actually recorded myself unboxing this when I bought it at Target some time ago. I don't know when that was recorded, but it's on this channel, and this has been waiting to be reviewed for some time, and I'm finally getting around to it. So I've had this one a while, and I was actually able to buy it because here in the United States, students will often give you a gift card or so forth at the end of the school year, also around the holidays. So not everybody does, but some students do, and I had some money for Target, and I thought, hey, why not get it and review it? So really, it's no money out of my own pocket directly. My students and their gifts actually paid for this instrument today. Ultimately, if it's any good or it can be fixed, it's probably going to go right back to my students as a gift to one of them so that they can play ukulele at home for someone that's interested. So let's begin with this subjective category. First of all, cost. $39.99 is about as little as you're going to pay for an instrument today in 2025. We used to be able to find some really good deals right around $20. Not anymore. Those days are over with inflation and tariffs and so forth. The value? Unfortunately, the value is not here. You might think, but you're getting a method book. You've got access to videos online. You get a box. You get the instrument. How can that not be a good value? Well, ultimately, the setup here is so bad, and we're going to get to it, that either you're going to have to set up the instrument or pay to have it set up. And by the time that you do that, you're going to more than double the cost. You're going to triple the cost of the instrument very quickly. And there are so many better ukuleles just at the $60 price point. Now, again, I know that's $20 more, but it is $20 really well spent to get into the $60 or $25 to $60 to $65 range as an intro instrument instead of this. So the price exceeds the value even though it's so inexpensive. Now, the build quality, it's not great. It's functional, but it's low quality materials. It's kind of sloppy on the inside. There's not even a label of any kind that would be like Hal Leonard Learn to Play or whatever. There's no identifier of where it was made. Clearly China. With this one, not that Chinese instruments are bad, but this is a, very, very basic entry-level ukulele. The positive side, though, is that they do have geared tuners, which aren't going to slip. So they may not be great tuners, but actually, those ears are so much smaller than so many other cheap instruments out there. You could almost harvest this instrument for parts to make other instruments out of and save money off of buying them online. So The build quality is not great at all. I don't really see critical issues, but I'm definitely not going to say that it's flawless. I'll just give you another example. If I turn the instrument like this, you can see that it has, sort of this semi-transparent stain that allows you to see still some of the wood grain, whatever wood that is. And on the sides, the fretboard, you can see where it's painted there before you get to the fretboard. But if I turn it this way, can you see that light color there? That's unpainted fretboard, and you can actually see the laminate fretboard popping right out at you. That's pretty crazy. You can see the overspray in the sound hole. As expected, the build quality, they're not really critical issues, but it's also not flawless. So I use an endoscope to take a look at what's happening on the inside of the instrument. That doesn't mean that it's good or bad, but it lets you see the care with which the instrument was created. So using an endoscope, I call this internal Uke Cam. I'm just being fun with that. But we can take a look and see what things are happening in here. And as you can see, it is a exceptionally low quality laminate, probably like a basswood. And not that there aren't instruments that sound just fine with basswood. I would use, for example, the Flight travel ukuleles have a basswood top. You can see the bridge plate there, sort of on the bottom of your screen. And it's not too bad of a glue mess. It's straight kerfing. A lot of Cal instruments these days are shipping without kerfing at the lower price points. So, it has a tail block. You can put in a strap button, which I may do when this is all done. But you can just see the very basic quality here. Anything bad about that? No. Is it critically wrong? No. Is it great? No. Let's take a look at the upper bout. All right, looking at the upper bout, there's your neck block. So it has a neck block. You can see just the standard kerfing, straight kerfing. Not a ton of glue mess, but also not really, exceptional in any way. So that's our quick look at the inside of the Hal Leonard Learn to Play ukulele. All right, so now we've looked at the inside of the instrument. Let's talk about the appearance. From a distance, it doesn't look too bad. Once you get up close, it is not wonderful. It almost has the appearance of a painted ukulele, and that's the case of all of these instruments. From a distance, acceptable. Up close, not something that's really going to inspire you to play. Very plain. You have a transfer rosette on there. You don't even have a maker's brand of any kind on the headstock or in the instrument itself. Now, in terms of availability, if you want one of these, you can order them at any time from so many sources on the internet. Just look up Hal Leonard Learn to Play Ukulele. And as a note, what is Hal Leonard? Hal Leonard is a number of things. They were originally a music publisher. Then they got into the music industry. So they are a distributor. They were a distributor for Flight ukuleles some time ago, but they distribute products for other companies, and then they also produce some of their own. And this is one of their productions that they still sell today. Interestingly, Hal Leonard was acquired by the Muse Group in the past year or so, which is a software company that makes MuseScore, notation software. And Muse Group owns a number of other software companies, and now Hal Leonard is part of that family as well. So this predates the Hal Leonard acquisition, and I'm not sure if the owners of Muse Group would actually want this sort of thing with the Hal Leonard name attached to it. All right, in terms of playability, the big issue here, more than anything else, is the action. So it is so tall, it's almost approaching 2 millimeters. And ideal for starters is about 0.5 millimeters. So it is 3 times higher at the first fret than it should be. There's a lot of space there. And before I can even consider giving this away to one of my students to play with, I need to do some work on the action. I'm not afraid to do that, but a lot of people are. You can learn how to do it. You can buy the tools to do it, or you can pay someone like a luthier to do it. But that's all added expense to something that for a beginner learn to play instrument should not have to happen. A learn to play instrument, the one thing that should be dead set 100% right all the time is the action for the beginning player. It's critical. If you have heard of Mim's Ukes, Mim is a person known in the ukulele community for her ukuleles and her setup. She sells a lot of Ohana instruments and basic entry-level Ohana instruments, but those instruments she takes extra special time to set up correctly so that new players have a positive experience. Because if they do well on their first instrument, logically, they're going to want to move up at some point. And MIM will be there with that quality customer service and giving that person a good playing experience. So it makes sense from a business perspective, but it takes a lot of time, and MIM will spend the time to do that. That's what every entry-level ukulele should have, is the setup is key, and this is not good. So that alone really hurts this instrument. Now the neck is a little bit narrower than usual, which is nice. It's a standard 35 millimeter nut. The string spacing at the first fret is really tight, which when I was trying to do this, which is part of the sound demo that Alex at Southern Ukulele Store in the UK does, and I use that as one of my sample songs so you could compare instruments or recordings if we ever play the same ones. He will never play this one, incidentally. That's really hard to do because your fingers are closer together than they typically are, so the string spacing is tight as well. Now, how about sound quality? Well, I'm going to have to tune up again because I have been pulling down on the strings. And you might say, well, aren't the strings settled yet? They should be. This instrument is not new. I bought it new, but it is not new. This is not a recent purchase. It has been played. But as you pull down those strings with action that high, you are pulling the strings out of tune and then stretching them. The instrument doesn't hold its tune. This is not a great sounding instrument. It can't play in tune right now because the action is so high. Now, the harmonics function, and why I check that occasionally is if you can get the harmonics to sound at like the 12th and the 5th fret, then you know that the frets are in the right spot. I've seen a couple cheap instruments that are so bad that the frets either aren't cut right, or the fretboard wasn't put in the right position, or the saddle isn't in the right position for the instrument, and you can't create those harmonics because those have to happen at certain frequencies, 5, 7, and 12, for example. And if you can't make those harmonics sound at all, oftentimes that's an indication that your fretboard is not set up right. Well, the fretboard is good. It's set up right. It's not great quality, but it's set up in the correct place. But as soon as you start pulling down the strings to play, like here's my A string, if I just pull down the string to where it stops and no more, it's significantly sharp, and it's going to do that because the action is so high and I'm pulling down so much. So yeah, I'm going to have to work on the setup here. So that alone makes this not a great sounding ukulele. It will probably be better once the action is set, and that's really my next task there. It has sort of a standard volume. It's not really super punchy like a soprano can be, but whatever, you know, it's a very dark sounding instrument. There's not much in terms of overtones here that I hear. It's not completely caught in the instrument either. It's definitely a darker sound with whatever these strings are. They are not identified as Aquila or Aquila Nylgut strings. It is, I'm sure, some off-brand, so that may also help too, different strings. But yeah, it's not a great sounding ukulele, and it might be better once I'm able to set it up. Now, one of the things I let you do is I let you see what I am hearing by using the app Tonal Energy Tuner on my iPad. I'm opening that right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the C chord into Tonal Energy, and I'll let you see what's happening with the sound spectrum. So here we go. So what I was seeing is not a lot of sustain, definitely low end sound. There's some high end there too, but it's definitely contained, and it all fades out at the same time. All right, now that we've looked at the subjective categories, let's get into the specifications. As you can see, it's up above me here. I've made myself smaller so you can see all the specifications on top. This is a soprano scale ukulele, even though it seems small. Has a measured scale length of 13.5625 inches from the nut to the saddle. It has 12 frets with 12 to the body. There were no side position marker dots originally, but I have added those in the correct way that you add a side position marker dot. So I've added those since I started this review, especially if I know that I'm going to be giving this instrument to somebody else. I want those on there. If you watch this channel, you know that if an instrument comes without side position markers, it is going to get an automatic rating of no higher than 3 possible ukuleles out of 5. And even though I've put on those side position markers, that does not raise the score. And that's just something I'm going to do from now on, is that if an instrument doesn't have those side position markers, I'm going to add them so that I don't pass on an instrument that I think has something that's sort of critical for players that are really truly learning how to play. The body style is a double bout. I have no idea what material this is made of. I'm guessing basswood for the top and the sides. I was able to get my micrometer in here. It's 3 millimeters thick, this top. It is a really thick top, which also doesn't help sound. No idea what it is. The fretboard, no idea what that's made out of. Some kind of laminate, as we can see from there, but it's painted. And those markers are just stickers. And I don't even think they're on straight. No, they're not. You can see that there. And no, they didn't include the stickers and say put them on yourself. The bridge and the saddle appear to be plastic. There is not a radius fretboard as you'd expect. The saddle itself is a non-compensated flat saddle. No problem with that. The finish, I believe, is a semi-transparent stain with a gloss final, spray. It could be also a paint that's made to look like wood with the final gloss. Not sure, but I think it's a semi-transparent stain that allows you to see sometimes some of the wood characteristics of whatever that low quality laminate is. The instrument itself is 20.75 inches and it only weighs 12.3 ounces, and it is balanced pretty well. The tuners are open gear tuners, and in a surprising twist of events, much smaller gear buttons, which is usually a complaint of many instruments. I think, for example, the Mahalos that have some really large buttons, or at least used to, those are nice small buttons on this instrument. So that's one positive there about the tuners themselves. And they do work. They're holding their tune. The action at the first fret is 1.72 millimeters at the first fret. It's extremely high. And the action at the 12th fret is 2.95 millimeters. So I'm going to get out my nut files and actually lower the action, I think, at the first fret, because just lowering it at the 12th isn't going to do it. So that's going to be the next goal and might be something that I tackle as soon as I'm done with this video. The nut width is 34.6 millimeters, and the string spacing at the first fret is 8 millimeters. That's really narrow, and a total of 27.84 G to A. So it's really tight string spacing for a soprano. But interestingly, another positive is that the depth of the neck is only 20.1 millimeters, even with that high action. So when that action is adjusted, that's going to drop down under 20 millimeters at the third fret. So I measure from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck. That's really good. The shape of the neck itself, much like the Rogue ukulele, another super cheap ukulele, that one that comes out of the Guitar Center family of stores, the Rogue brand, the neck was really nice on the Rogue. Here's another situation where, other than the gloss neck and not knowing what it's made out of, the shape of the neck itself is something that I think is better than a lot of other ukuleles that I hold, especially in the terms of sopranos. So there's another positive. Tuners and the neck. Shape of the neck at the very least. All right, now that we've looked at the subjective categories, let's summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating. As described by Hal Leonard, this is what they say. Everything you need to get started, a top quality 4-string ukulele, and the best-selling play ukulele today. But in reality, it's a very low-quality ukulele. It is not top quality. Thankfully, it does have 4 strings. And The method book is fine. This is a decent method book. It does teach really a combination of single notes and playing off the staff as well as learning some chords. And in my own approach as a teacher, I don't teach that way. We have so many other ways that we teach melody from when students walk in the door, whether it is xylophones or pianos or bells or boom whackers or whatever it might be. So much focus is on melody that I allow the ukulele in fifth grade, where I teach ukulele, to be harmony first. So students learn how to play chords while they sing. And that is, when I go to ukulele groups, that's how people are using ukulele. Yes, you can play individual notes, and I know there's the whole J. Chalmers Doan and the James Hill approaches of ukulele in the classroom, and books like this where, yes, the ukulele is a real instrument that can play melody. Yes, absolutely. I make chord melodies all the time. That's a combination of melody and harmony. But as you're starting out ukulele and how you use it generally with other people starts with that idea of harmony. So I'm not against a method book like this. It's just something that I would not directly do. And I talk about that from personal experience. When I started teaching ukulele, I used a book very similar to this. I think it might have been even Essential Elements for Ukulele. They're all very closely related. Students got bored of that because what they saw online and what they wanted to do was to play ukulele. They wanted to play chords with songs that they knew and songs that they loved. And I realized that very quickly. And that's what led to the video play-alongs that I create and use in my classes, is because students wanted to get to playing the music they love, and they wanted to play, not playing individual notes, not playing here are the notes on the G string and here are the notes on the C string. Now, is that stuff valuable? Sure it is, but I'm not sure that that's where I would start out. So nonetheless, is it a good method book? Sure. Is it what I would do? I don't think it is. And in fact, I know it's not what I do as a music teacher or when I teach beginning ukulele, for example, at ukulele festivals and so forth. Now, I applaud Hal Leonard's efforts to make an accessible ukulele package. I haven't watched the videos to see how they are that are related. I have an idea of they're going to just be teaching the same material, notes and chords with, reading off the staff. Great, it's music education. I'm all for it. However, all that said, the number one criteria for a beginning ukulele is that it should be set up well so that a player has a positive experience playing the instrument. It's going to be easier on their fingers and it's going to sound better. This is not it. The action is way too high, and you are going to either have to learn how to set it up or you're going to have to pay to have it set up. And by the time that you do that, you should have bought a different instrument. So, with that and the tight string spacing, I think this instrument is best avoided. Go spend $20 to $30 more at a starting point of $60 to $70, maybe even a little more, and get a far better instrument. And really, maybe use those services of like a MIMS Ukes or a Uke Republic or an Aloha City Ukes or a Southern Ukulele Store or a World of Ukes, depending on where you're at, so that you start off with a positive playing experience rather than this, which would be a very sour playing experience. So what rating would I give this? I think that when set up, this instrument actually might be playable. String spacing is still going to be tight, but if the action gets adjusted, I know the fretboard is in the right position. It's not great sounding, but it's usable. So I'm going to give this 1.5 out of 5 possible ukuleles. So that's our full UkeGuide review of the Hal Leonard Learn to Play Ukulele. Thanks so much for joining for this video. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.